Hello everyone. Today we will discuss ethics, integrity and aptitude, which is paper 4. We will discuss the syllabus first, table of contents, ethics and human interface, introduction, ethics in private and public relationships, morals, human values, ethics, morality and values, role of family in inculcation of values, role of educational institutions in inculcation of values, ethical issues in news, moonlighting culture, ethics of influencer or celebrity endorsements, ethics of migration, doping in sports, social reform, a matter of law or ethics, making Bhagavad Gita teachings mandatory in schools, surrogate advertising, child artists, key terms and their meanings. Okay, first we will discuss the ethics and human interface, chapter 1. A man without ethics is a wild beast loose upon this world, said by Albert Camus. In just about every area of society, there is nothing more important than ethics. Henry Paulson. In just about every area of society, there is nothing more important than ethics. Okay. What is ethics? Introduction. Ethics are a field of study that explores moral questions and principles. It helps us distinguish between good and bad behavior. In simple words, ethics refers to what is good and the way to get it, and what is bad and how to avoid it. In philosophy, ethics outlines the nature of the obligations that people have towards themselves and one another, as well as what is good for the individual and society. It seeks to understand the character of individuals, which is manifested through their habitual conduct. Ethics can also be termed as a science of character and conduct. Ethics can also be termed as science of character and conduct. Importance of ethics. What is the importance of ethics? Ethics ensures individual as well as social good. Ethics ensures individual as well as social good. Ethics guides human conduct and helps man in leading a good life by applying moral principles. It aims at individual good as well as social good. For instance, farmers in a water-stressed region adopt water-saving irrigation techniques that conserves precious water resources, collective good, and ensures the long-term viability of their own farms, personal good. Second is attainment of highest good. Ethics helps in achieving summum bonum, the highest good, the definitive happiness. Okay. Third, provides moral map. Ethics provides us with a moral map, a framework that we can use to find our way through difficult issues. Fourth, frees from bias and prejudices. Application of moral principles and ethical values in our life helps to deconstruct the wrong conceptions, attitudes, and helps to avoid bias and prejudices. Fifth, effective decision making. Ethics guides us to make right, just, and inclusive decisions aimed at personal as well as societal interest. Implications of absence of ethics. What is the implication of absence of ethics? Absence of ethics causes various ethical and moral concerns in individuals as well as society. Individual level, partialism, apathy, egoistic behavior, domestic violence, selfishness, cheating behavior, unempathetic, bystander apathy, etc. Next is bureaucratic level, social apathy, insensitivity to weaker sections, conflict of interest, abuse of power, corruption, nepotism, trust deficit, punishment postings, red tapeism, poor decisions, personal gains, favoritism, neglect of public welfare, etc. Fourth is political level, use of money and muscle power, criminalization of politics and politicization of criminals, defections, instability of government, violence, communalism, abuse of constitution, power abuse, power concentration, etc. Fifth one is societal level, corruption as a norm, gender gap, commodification of women, increased materialism, ends surpass means, drug addiction, violence, communalism, gender crimes, disrespect towards poor, elders, and disabled, etc. Environmental level: pollution, illegal mining, deforestation, encroachment of natural water bodies, animal torture, illegal mining, and depletion of natural resources, wildlife, crime, etc. International level: trade monopoly, cross-border terrorism, drug trafficking, human trafficking, ceasefire violation, encroachment at border areas, organized crimes, safe tax havens, protectionism, vaccine nationalism, nuclearization, conflict, war, erodes legitimacy of international institutions, etc. Evaluation of ethics. Evaluation of ethical conduct means to respect the rights of participants and ensure minimization from the potential harm. It can be done on the basis of free will. A choice is evaluated for ethical or unethical when it is chosen from available options freely. For instance, consider recent controversies in India regarding the right of Muslim girls to wear hijab in schools. This involves a clash between a student's free will to express their religious identity and the school's right to enforce a uniform dress code. Value system. Following the Bushido honor code, a captured samurai might choose ritual suicide over torture. This aligns with his core values of honor and dignity. Knowledge. Ethical choices require understanding the consequences. For example, a baby's action lack an ethical dimension because they don't grasp the repercussions. Mental impairment. A husband with shiro, schizophrenia who mistreats his wife might not be held ethically accountable. His mental illness could impair his understanding and free will. Self-defense. Killing in self-defense, driven by fear for your life, is legally justifiable, but the ethical implications might be more nuanced depending on the specific situation. Cultural upbringing. In Japan, profuse apologies are deeply ingrained from a young age. This ingrained habit might lead to apologies even in situations where blame is not necessarily present. Next is scope of ethics. The scope of ethics is a free human act, voluntary actions, which is a major subject matter of ethics. We can distinguish between human actions and the actions of humans. Human actions are those actions that are done by humans consciously, deliberately, and in view of an end. Example, slapping a person. Actions of humans may not be willfully, voluntarily, consciously, and deliberately done, but all the same, they are done by humans. Example, sleeping, walking, etc. In ethics, we deal only with human actions. Ethics is concerned with political, sociological, cultural, psychical, economic, environmental, religious problems in pursuit of the highest good. So these problems also come under the scope of ethics. The scope of ethics is widening with the emergence of new technology such as artificial intelligence, social media, and OTT content regulation, gene editing, etc., which have given rise to new ethical issues. Nature of ethics. Universality of ethical principles. Everyone in a society has a set of ethical guidelines outlining right and wrong across all aspects of life, not just business or politics. Social evolution and ethics. Our capacity for social interaction and memory led to the development of ethics as humans evolved. We recognize each other and consider past actions when determining ethical behavior. Cultural variations in ethical standards. What is ethical can differ across cultures. For instance, surrogacy, accepted in some developed states, might be considered unethical elsewhere due to concerns about exploitation or commercialization. Ethics as a value-based system. Unlike sciences focused on what is, ethics deals with what should be. It evaluates standards and norms to judge human actions as right or wrong. Ethics, the science of moral value. By identifying behaviors with a moral dimension, ethics act as a science of values, analyzing what constitutes ethical behavior. Dimensions of ethics. There are four branches of ethics, and they deal with following types of questions. Branches, descriptions. Descriptive ethics. What do people think? Descriptive ethics is the study of moral beliefs held by different societies and cultures. It explores how these beliefs translate into ethical practices, customs, and laws. This branch of ethics uses empirical methods to examine the foundation of moral beliefs within a society. It considers how legal codes, customs, and historical trends have shaped these beliefs. Kohlberg's theory of moral consciousness is an example of descriptive ethics. Descriptive ethics act as a record keeper, documenting the history and evolution of ethical thinking across cultures. It tracks changes in societal taboos, customs, and moral codes. For example, consider the ethical implication of using facial recognition technology, FRT, for public surveillance. While some see it as a tool for improving safety, descriptive ethics would involve examining how this privacy and impacts individual privacy and potential biases in the technology. Meta-ethics. What does rights even mean? It is the subdiscipline of ethics, mainly concerned with the nature of ethical theories and moral judgments. Meta means about the things itself. So meta-ethics is ethics about ethics, that is, evaluation of ethics itself. What is meant by wrong action? Why is stealing immoral? Why is charity moral? It investigates the origin and meaning of ethical concepts. It studies where our ethical principles come from and what they mean. It tries to analyze the underlying principles of ethical values. For instance, in the case of Sandhara practice by Jain, meta-ethics studies the reason for such beliefs. Normative or prescriptive ethics. How should people act? Normative ethics is concerned with the norms, standards, or criteria that define the principles of ethical behavior. It is the study of ethical theories that prescribe how people ought to act and behave in society. It examines standards for the rightness and wrongness of actions, and it is more concerned with who ought one be rather than the ethics of a specific issue. Example, normative ethical theories are utilitarianism, deontology, and consequentialism. Next is applied ethics. How do we take moral knowledge and put into practice? The applied dimension of ethics, known as applied ethics, it refers to the practical application of moral considerations. It is concerned with the philosophical investigation of specific moral dilemmas in private and public life, including moral judgments. Example, bioethics, which pertains to euthanasia, abortion, or research on human embryos. Business ethics, which include good corporate governance, protection of whistleblowers, etc. Examples of applied ethics. Bioethics. Bioethics is the study of ethical issues emerging from advances in biology and medicine. The field of bioethics has addressed a broad range of issues like debates over the boundaries of life, example, abortion, euthanasia, surrogacy, allocation of scarce healthcare resources, example, organ donation, healthcare rationing, right to refuse medical care for religious or cultural reasons. The scope of bioethics is expanding with new developments in biotechnology, including cloning, gene therapy, life extension, human genetic engineering, astroethics, and life in space. Business ethics. Business ethics refers to the implementing appropriate business policies and practices with regard to arguably controversial subjects. It encompasses various issues like corporate governance, insider trading, bribery, discrimination, social responsibility, and fiduciary responsibilities. For example, India generates a massive amount of e-waste, and ethical e-commerce companies Namo e-waste, Karma Recycling, etc. ensure environmentally responsible disposal of old electronics instead of dumping them in landfills. Environmental ethics. Environmental ethics deals with the ethical problems surrounding environmental protection and conservation. It aims to provide ethical justification and moral motivation for the cause of global environmental protection. For instance, following sustainable clothing practices by choosing to buy from brands committed to using recycled materials or organic cotton over fast fashion, which causes high environmental footprint. International ethics. It refers to upholding ethical values and application of ethical principles in international relations. It helps to resolve some of the major international problems, issues, and provide insight into international conflicts. For example, refugee crisis. Turning away refugees fleeing war violates international human rights principles. Cyber warfare. Launching cyber attacks against critical infrastructure of another nation raises ethical concerns. Unequal trade deals. Developed nation imposing unfair trade deals on developing countries hinders economic justice. Climate change inaction. Refusal of some countries to address climate change disproportionately harms vulnerable nations. Debt traps for developing nations. Predatory lending practices that burden developing nations with unsustainable debt are unethical. Media ethics. Media ethics is concerned about the question of what is right or wrong, good or bad, acceptable or unacceptable, about the means and ways that the media collects and presents information and news. Ethical media plays many positive roles. It tries to prevent any monopoly over information diffusion, maintains objectivity by providing different sides of an issue, which empowers audiences to formulate their own judgments, increases levels of truthfulness in reporting. Issues of media ethics, irresponsible live telecast of combat operations. For instance, the Supreme Court highlighted that the live TV coverage of 26 by 11 terrorists attacks put national security in jeopardy. Fake news swaying elections. Fabricated news stories shared on social media mislead voters and undermine democratic processes. Paparazzi harassing celebrities. Aggressive paparazzi tactics for photos invade celebrities' privacy and raise ethical concerns. Conflicts of interest in reporting. Journalists with financial ties to companies they cover raise questions about biased reporting. Unethical gotcha journalism. Trapping public figures with manipulative questions can be unfair and unproductive. Digital media ethics. Digital media ethics deals with the ethical problems and ethical issues of digital news media. New ethical issues are emerging out of digital media, such as plagiarism, digitally altering images or video using anonymous sources, omnidirectional imaging, digital intrusion, and violation of privacy, fake news and rumors, deep fake, etc. Artificial ethics, artificial intelligence ethics. Artificial intelligence is rapidly transforming our world, but its development raises a number of ethical concerns. Ethics of AI focuses on ethical issues raised by the design, development, implementation, and use of AI. Ethical issues in AI: bias, accountability, privacy, job displacement, surveillance. Bias: AI can inherit and amplify biases from the data it's trained on, leading to discriminatory outcomes. Example: biased hiring algorithms. Accountability: as AI takes on more responsibility, who is accountable for its actions and errors? Example: self-driving car accidents. Privacy: AI systems that rely on vast amounts of personal data raise concerns about data collection, storage, and potential misuse. Example: facial recognition in public spaces. Job displacement. Automation through AI could lead to widespread unemployment, requiring societal adaptation. Example, rise of low-skilled jobs versus high-skilled jobs. Surveillance. AI can be used for pervasive monitoring, raising concerns about individual liberty and freedom. Example, constant social credit tracking. How can these issues be resolved? Developing ethical guidelines, creating clear ethical principles for AI development and deployment, promoting transparency, encouraging explainable AI models and fostering public trust, building accountability, establishing clear lines of responsibility for AI systems and their actions, protecting privacy, ensuring strong data privacy regulations and user control over personal information, upskilling the workforce, preparing people for an AI powered future through education and retraining programs, normative global collaboration, developing international frameworks for responsible AI development and governance, normative ethics theories, utilitarianism. Normative ethics theories, utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is an ethical theory that determines right and wrong by focusing on outcomes. It is possible of consequentialism. It is a form of consequentialism. It holds that the most ethical it holds that most ethical choice is the one that will produce the greatest good for the greatest number. For example, utilitarians might advocate building a large dam project despite displacing some communities. This could be seen as justified if it provides long-term benefits like irrigation and electricity for a larger population. Limitations. It is impossible to quantify, compare, or measure happiness or well-being. It does not account for things like feelings and emotions, culture, or justice. Utilitarianism ignores the welfare of minorities. For instance, utilitarian arguments might prioritize using Hindi in education or administration for national unity. However, this ignores the rights of linguistic minorities to access education and participate in society in their own language. In utilitarian ethics, there are no shades of gray. Either something is wrong or it is right. It cannot predict with certainty whether the consequences of our actions will be good or bad as the results of our action happen in the future. It also has trouble accounting for values like justice and individual rights. For example, a hospital has four people whose lives depend upon receiving organ transplants, that is, heart, lungs, a kidney, and a liver. Deontology. Deontology is a duty-based system of ethics which holds that some acts are intrinsically right or wrong, regardless of their consequences, and that moral agents have duties to follow moral commands or rules, regardless of their consequences. Unlike consequentialism, which judges actions by their results, deontology does not require weighing the costs and benefits of a situation. Example, as per the deontological approach, a civil servant needs to follow the given rule and regulations without thinking about the consequences. Deontology is an ethical theory that uses rules to distinguish right from wrong. Deontology is often associated with philosopher Immanuel Kant. Kant believed that ethical actions follow universal moral laws such as do not lie, do not steal, do not cheat. Limitations. As per this theory, there is no place for human inclinations, emotions, and consequences. However, in some situations, emotional intelligence, empathy is required to bring harmony or achieve a greater good. It may produce consequences that can be unacceptable to most. For example, a doctor bound by patient confidentiality deontological principle might refuse to report a contagious disease due to privacy concerns. However, this could endanger public health. One possible way of resolving this problem can be through an idea we called threshold deontology, which says we should always obey the rules unless in an emergency situation, at which point we should revert to a consequentialist approach. For instance, free speech is a right deontology, but hate speech incites violence. Threshold deontology allows restricting hate speech to prevent harm. Ethical relativism posits that moral standards are not absolute but vary across cultures and societies, shaped by their customs, traditions, and practices. Examples include diverse views on polygamy, child labor, and alcohol consumption. Ethical universalism contends that despite cultural differences, there exist universal moral values recognized across various societies, such as prohibitions against theft, deceit, and invasion of privacy. Virtue ethics. Ethical actions ought to be consistent with certain ideal virtues that provide for the full development of our humanity. For instance, certain virtues like justice, equality, compassion, altruism, empathy, honesty, integrity, respect for law, wisdom, courage, etc. are basic tenets of human society. It is character-based approach to morality developed by Aristotle and other ancient Greeks. It is the quest to understand and live a life of moral character. Virtue ethics addresses not only the rightness or wrongness of individual actions, but also the characteristics and behaviors that a good person should strive for. For example, many doctors in India displayed exceptional courage, a key virtue, during the COVID-19 pandemic, treating patients despite risks to their own health. Their actions embody the virtue of putting patient well-being first. According to Aristotle, by honing virtuous habits, people will likely make the right choice when faced with ethical challenges. Virtue and vice. A virtue is a morally good disposition to think, feel, and act well in some domain of life. Similarly, a vice is a morally bad disposition involving thinking, feeling, and acting badly. For example, efforts to normalize discussions around mental health show empathy, virtue, while societal stigma surrounding it remains a vice. Some examples of virtues include courage, temperance, justice, prudence, and generosity. Some examples of vices include cowardice, intemperance, injustice, imprudence, and selfishness. Virtues and vices are not always clear cut. There can be times when it is difficult to decide whether a particular action is virtuous or vicious. For example, is it courageous to stand up to a bully, or is it reckless? The answer may depend on the specific situation. Limitations. Lack of specific guidance. Virtue ethics tells you to be a good person, but it does not give clear rules for what to do in specific situations. You might wonder, is lying ever virtuous? Disagreement on virtues. There is no universally agreed upon list of virtues. What is considered virtuous can vary across cultures and even within societies. Focus on character, not consequences. Virtue ethics emphasizes developing a good character, but it does not directly address the outcomes of your actions. This might be tricky in situations where consequences are crucial. Relative ethics. Relative ethics explores the concept that moral standards are not universal but vary across cultures, societies, and historical contexts. Basic tenets of relative ethics. Relative ethics posits that moral judgments are inherently linked to the cultural, temporal, and historical context in which they arise. It suggests that ethical standards evolve and adapt, emphasizing that morality is shaped by societal norms or folkways. Examples of ethical evolution: sati practice and slave trade, once a revered tradition in India, now banned and widely condemned. Female circumcision, child labor, divergent sexual practices. Their acceptance varies significantly across cultures. Illustrations of ethical relativism. Capital punishment. The legality of capital punishment varies across states in the USA. Same-sex marriage, legalized in 14 states by the US Federal Court, reflecting changing societal norms. Acceptance of cultural diversity. In face of globalization, moral values are also being dictated from West. Will relativism help justify cultural diversity and its underlying moral values? Challenges to ethical relativism. Critics argue that certain practices, such as slavery or infanticide, cannot be justified under the guise of relativism. They contend that some ethical standards should transcend cultural and historical boundaries. In essence, relative ethics undergoes the notion that ethical standards are not static but evolve in response to cultural, societal, and historical changes. It emphasizes the importance of understanding and respecting diverse ethical perspectives, fostering a more tolerant and open minded approach to moral judgments. Universal ethics. Basic tenets of universal ethics. Universal ethics proposes that certain ethical principles are universally applicable, transcending cultural, societal, and historical differences. Unlike ethical relativism, universal ethics argues for the existence of moral values that are inherent to human dignity and rights. Examples of universal ethics: right to human dignity. Every individual, regardless of background, has an inherent right to live with dignity. Equality of suffering. Physical suffering is universally recognized for both humans and animals, emphasizing compassion across species. Privacy laws. The invasion of privacy is universally condemned, reflecting a global consensus on individual rights. Universal ethics in action. Universal ethics is exemplified by the concept of universal human rights, advocating for inherent human dignity that must be respected and protected worldwide. This perspective has inspired international efforts and legislation, such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to uphold these values globally. Universalism and cultural relativism. Universalism contends that despite cultural differences, there exist fundamental ethical principles applicable to all human beings. It acknowledges cultural diversity in the interpretation and practice of these principles, but maintains the universality of core values, such as the sanctity of life and the rights to freedom and security. For example, protecting human infants worldwide, regardless of cultural practices, prohibitions against theft and murder, etc. These norms and practices are seen as universal norms essential for societal existence. Universalism argues for fundamental ethical values that underpin human society, while acknowledging that the expression and understanding of these values can vary significantly across cultures. This perspective encourages a balanced view that respects cultural uniqueness while upholding universal ethical standards, aiming to foster a more inclusive and equitable global community. Determinants of ethics. Determinants of ethics are the sources from which an ethical standard arises. Following are factors or determinants which determines whether human action is good or bad, ethical or unethical, just or unjust. First one is religion and culture. Culture, along with the ancient religious texts, also influences the ethical principles of a person. Culture acts as a prescription for correct and moral behavior. For example, consider the Indian tradition of Athithi Devo Bhava, which translates to the guest is equivalent to God, and emphasis on Indian culture of respecting guests. Conscience. Conscience is a person's moral sense of right and wrong, viewed as acting as a guide to one's behavior. Example, Gandhiji withdrew the non-cooperation movement after the violence in Chauri Chaura incident. Law. Law often incorporates ethical standards, but laws can deviate from what is ethical. Thus, we cannot equate ethics with the law. For instance, misuse of sedition laws to suppress dissent and criticism of the government has raised concerns about freedom of speech and expression. Family and teachers. Any child is like a clean, clean slate in childhood. Its family and teachers play the most important role in shaping their attitudes, behaviors, and inculcating values in their children. But sometimes children can deviate from the family teachings. Role models. Role models can influence ethical values of individuals. Example, PM Modi's gesture of picking up a mini national flag lying on stage at BRICS summit prompts, promotes values like respecting national symbols. Time. The passage of time represents the evolution of collective and individual thought, transforming what was once ethical into what may now be considered unethical, and vice versa. For example, the abolition of slavery in the 19th century across many parts of the world reflects a significant shift in ethical standards regarding human rights and freedom. Society. In any society, most people accept standards that are in fact ethical, but ethics is not doing whatever society accepts. Standards of behavior in society can deviate from what is ethical. An entire society can become ethically corrupt. Nazi Germany is a good example of a morally corrupt society. Ethics in private and public relationships. Ethics act as a guiding compass in our lives, shaping how we interact with others. This plays out in both our close personal connections and our broader interactions in the public sphere. In private relationships, ethics focus on fostering trust and respect, while public ethics emphasize principles like fairness and accountability. Ethics in private relationships. It refers to ethical values that a person follows or values in his or her personal life while dealing with various relations such as family relations, friendships, etc. There are no formal moral or ethical standards for private relationships. Rather, they are informal in nature and vary from person to person. Following are some important values in a private relationship. Trust. This is the foundation of any strong relationship. It involves being honest, reliable, and keeping confidences. Respect. Treat others with dignity and consideration, even when you disagree. This includes respecting their boundaries and opinions. Honesty. Be truthful in your interactions, even when it is difficult. This builds trust and strengthens the bond. Compassion and empathy. Try to understand and care about the feelings of others. Offer support and be there for them during tough times. Tolerance. Accept that people have different beliefs and values. Be open minded and willing to compromise. Ethics in private relationships. Important values in a private relationship: trust, respect, honesty, compassion and empathy, and tolerance. Ethics in private relationship are generally directed by personal qualities, religious beliefs, social influences, legal framework. Personal qualities. Traits like honesty and truthfulness play a key role in ethical decision making within our personal relationships. Religious beliefs. For religious individuals, divine commandments act as ethical guidelines in their personal lives, followed to achieve salvation. Example, the Ten Commandments offer guidance for Christians in their interactions with family, neighbors, and society. Social influences. Values can also be shaped by our social environment, including family, friends, and society as a whole. Example, parents who share household chores and promote equal opportunities for children demonstrate the value of gender equality. Legal framework. Certain ethical principles are enshrined in laws and constitutional values. Example, respecting women's modesty, is a fundamental duty enshrined in the Indian Constitution. Importance of ethics in private relationships, character development, right decision making, more tolerance for imperfection, ethical lessons for children, acceptance in public life. Character development, adherence to good values such as honesty, integrity, equality, etc. help in character development. Right decision making enables us to make right decisions, especially in the situation of conflict of interest. More tolerance for imperfection. People used to have a high index of tolerance for imperfection in private relationships because of mutual trust, love, and dependence. Ethical lessons for children. Ethical living in private relations, especially within home, influences the behavior of children. It works as first lessons of ethics for them. Acceptance in public life. Ethics in private personal relationships makes a personality more acceptable in public life. Ethics in public relationship. Public life is anything that is situated in, occurs in, and interacts with the public domain, whether in public places or through the media. Ethics in public relationships includes ethical values or moral standards followed by an individual in respect of interactions and business dealings in his or her professional life. Sir M. Vishesharaya, before accepting the position of Diwan of Mysore, he invited all his relatives for dinner. He told them very clearly that he would accept the prestigious office on the condition that none of them would approach him for favors. Such things are unheard of these days. It is said that he used to have two sets of candles, one privately purchased, which he used for his private work, and other provided for by the government, which he used only for the official work. Lal Bahadur Shastri, on a visit to a textile mill as a prime minister, when the owner offered to give him expensive saris, Shastri insisted on buying and paying for only those he could afford. He also had an undue promotion for his son overturned. After the Arialo train accident in 1956, Shastri tendered his resignation to the PM while claiming moral responsibility as a railway minister. Nolan Committee, Seven Principles in Public Life. Nolan Committee, Seven Principles in Public Life. Committee on Standards in Public Life, or occasionally referred to as Nolan Committee, has outlined the following seven principles of public life, which are the integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, leadership, selflessness. Integrity. It is the practice of being honest and showing a consistent and uncompromising adherence to moral and ethical principles. Example, Mahatma Gandhi and Abraham Lincoln were exemplary leaders who were famous for their integrity. Both in times of crisis adhered with their values, like Lincoln sticking to abolition of slavery and Gandhi towards non-violence. Next is objectivity. It means taking decisions based upon established facts and figures rather than personal opinion or bias. Example, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud's reputation for impartial judgments in landmark cases like right to privacy strengthens public trust in the judiciary. Accountability. Holders of public office are accountable for their decisions and actions to the public and must submit themselves to whatever scrutiny is appropriate to their office. Example, as railway minister under Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, Lal Bahadur Shastri tendered his resignation after a major railway accident in Andhra Pradesh. Fourth one is openness. Holders of public office should be as open as possible about all the decisions and actions they take. They should give reasons for their decisions and restrict information only when the wider public interest clearly demands. Example, Vinod Rai, former CAG, turned the office of CAG into a powerful force for openness and transparency by unearthing a 2G scam. Fifth, honesty. It can be defined as being trustworthy, loyal, fair, and sincere. A honest person is free of deceit, is truthful and sincere, and does not tell a lie. Example, a tax advisor encourages their client to declare all income, even though it might lead to higher taxes. Leadership. 6 is leadership. Holders of public office should promote and support these principles by leadership and example. Leadership. Example, for instance, leadership and example. Okay, for instance, IPS officer Harsh Podar's innovative policing strategies have won him widespread acclaim. His unique youth parliament championship created some 2 lakh young leaders against crime and terror in Maharashtra. A leader is someone who knows the way, goes the way, shows the way. John C. Maxwell. A leader is someone who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. John C. Maxwell. 7th is selflessness. Holders of public office should take decisions solely in terms of public interest. They should not do so in order to gain financial or other material benefits for themselves, their families, or their friends. For example, in Delhi, firefighter Amit Kumar lost his life rescuing residents trapped in a burning building, prioritizing saving lives over self-preservation. These 7 principles are the most comprehensive statements of what constitutes ethical standards for holders of public office and are of general applicability in every democracy. Importance of ethics in public relationship. Public relationships are ones that are a result of one's profession, such as civil service, or status in society, such as that of prime minister or president. Ethics in public relations serve as a guide for one's actions, decisions, and behaviors. Ethical decision making. Developing a strong moral compass helps public servants navigate ethical dilemmas and avoid conflicts of interest. Equality and fairness. Article 14 of the Indian Constitution emphasizes equal treatment for all citizens. Public servants should uphold impartiality and avoid bias, nepotism, and other situations that could compromise fairness. This is evident in practices like Janta Darbar, where everyone gets a chance to voice concerns without favoritism. Transparency and trust. Ethical public relations require transparency in handling all information, regardless of sensitivity. Blurring lines between fact and fiction undermines public trust and damages the credibility of the institution. Balanced and equitable decisions. Ethical decision making leads to a fairer and more balanced outcomes for all. This fosters public trust and strengthens relationship with stakeholders. Following a code of ethics is crucial for building this trust. Respectful interactions. Treating everyone with basic courtesy fosters a sense of belonging among the public. For example, Prashant Nair IAS respectful engagement with citizens earned him the title of Collector Bro. Relation between public and private ethics. Private relation and public relation. Private relation. In private relations, people expect intimacy, loyalty, love, and affection. Duties are voluntary, self-imposed, and informal. If you fail, the relationship may remain intact. One involves people sharing similarity in the value system. Example, standing by your friends or loved ones in the good and bad times, providing good facilities to your children, etc. Public relation. In public relations, respect, attention, power, authority, and materialistic benefits are expected. Duties externally imposed and formally mentioned in codes. Failure to oblige usually ends the relationship. One has to deal with people having completely different temperaments. Example, All India Service Conduct Rules. How to share that both lives remain separate. How to share that both lives remain separate. Selective disclosure. Share only necessary personal information in public spaces. Boundaries with colleagues. Avoid sharing overly personal details with work colleagues. Time management. Dedicate specific times for work management and avoid work intrusions on personal time. Double life avoidance. Don't Do not engage in activities that would contradict your professional image. Open communication. Discuss expectations of privacy with friends, family, and colleagues. Why tight separation is not possible. Private life does have bearing on public life of a person, and thus the tight separation in public and private relationship is not possible because of the following reasons. Personal life often affects the work of the individual and affects her role in public spheres of life. For instance, if a person becomes bankrupt because of his lavish private lifestyle, then he is morally ineligible for holding public posts in India. Because if such a financially distressed person is holding a public life, he is more likely to accept bribes. Ethics in private relations helps in humanizing public relations and plays an important role in forming the moral system of a person. Certain values like honesty, respect, empathy, trust, equality, and efficiency, etc., which are considered to equally guide our actions in both professional and private spheres. The dichotomy between public and private ethics poses intricate challenges. While the two areas are distinct, they are not mutually exclusive. Ethical conduct in one's personal life often sets the foundation for behavior in public roles, and conflicts can arise when the values inherent in each sphere collide. It is the interplay between these two realms that shapes an individual's overall ethical integrity. Conclusion. Ethics provide a framework for dealing with complex situations. By understanding ethical principles and their applications, we can make informed decisions that promote fairness, respect, and well being of ourselves and others. This ethical framework empowers us to build a more just and responsible world. Morals. What is moral? Derived from the Latin word moralis, derived from the other word mos, meaning traditional customs. Morals are essentially guidelines that people use to distinguish right from wrong. They act like an internal compass, helping us navigate complex situations and make choices that align with our values. For instance, beliefs like always telling the truth, respecting the elders, helping poor, etc., promotes moralistic behavior in individuals. Moral codes are not static. As societies change and new ideas emerge, our understanding of right and wrong can evolve. What was considered immoral in the past might be viewed differently today, and vice versa. For instance, once considered an acceptable practice in many cultures, slavery is now universally condemned. Similarly, right to vote and own property were once denied to women in many societies. Today, gender equality is a widely recognized moral principle. Why be moral? Social glue for a cohesive society, creates a positive ripple effect, contributes to a just society, building a better world, fulfilling our inner compass. So, why be moral? Social glue for a cohesive society. Morality acts like a social glue, promoting tolerance and acceptance of diverse viewpoints. This reduces conflict and fosters a peaceful, stable society where everyone feels they belong. Creates a positive ripple effect. By behaving ethically, you inspire others to do the same, creating a more positive social environment. It contributes to a just society. Morality underpins justice. ensuring everyone is treated fairly and with respect. Building a better world. Ultimately, it is in everyone's best interest to cultivate a good society over a bad one. Morality encourages cooperation and positive behaviors that benefit everyone. Traditions and laws, rooted in moral principles, guide us towards this goal, fulfilling our inner compass. Deep within each of us lies a desire for good. Morality allows us to act on that desire, pursuing what is truly best for ourselves and aligning our actions with our conscience. Constitutional morality. Constitutional morality means adherence to or being faithful to bottom line principles of the constitutional values. Adherence to or being faithful to bottom line principles of the constitutional values. It is the spirit that guides how the constitution is interpreted, implemented, and upheld by both citizens and government institutions. It goes deeper than just following the written words of the Constitution. It emphasizes the spirit and intent behind the document, ensuring actions uphold its core principles like justice, equality, and freedom. The major elements of constitutional morality in the context of Indian Constitution are rule of law, right to equality, social justice, unity and integrity of nation, secularism, individual liberty, and freedom of expression, etc. Example, the Indian Supreme Court's decision to strike down the practice of triple talaq, which was deemed unconstitutional and violated the fundamental rights of Muslim women. Differences between ethics and morals. Morality describes what is, whereas ethics describes what ought to be. Morality describes what is, ethics, whereas ethics describes what ought to be. Ethics and morals relate to right and wrong conduct. While they are sometimes used interchangeably, they are different. For instance, helping a friend cheat on an exam might be seen as morally okay by some due to loyalty, moral obligation to friend, but it is ethically wrong as it undermines fairness, that is ethical principle of honesty, and promotes wrongdoing. Okay. Ethics versus morals. Source of ethics. External guidelines, principles established by a group, profession, or society. Source of morals. Internal compass, personal beliefs and values, shaped by upbringing, culture, religion. Okay. What are they? Ethics. The rules of conduct recognized in respect to a particular class of human actions or a particular group or culture. Morals, principles or habits with experiments respect to right or wrong conduct. While morals also prescribe do's and don'ts, morality is ultimately a personal compass of life of right and wrong. Focus, ethics, group behavior and professional conduct. What is the right thing to do in this situation, considering the group or profession? Morals, individual conduct and personal choices. What is right for me? Ethics, enforcement, may be enforced through external mechanisms like disciplinary actions or legal repercussions. Morals, enforcement, relied on internal conscience and social pressure. Ethics, where do they come from? Ethics, social system, external. Morals, individual, internal. Flexibility, ethics are dependent on others for a definition and it largely stays universal. Example, truth, compassion, non-violence, etc. Morals, usually consistent, although can change if an individual's beliefs change. Examples, views of homosexuality change from individual to individual. For instance, your personal driving habits are morals. You might believe it is okay to speed slightly on an empty highway, while traffic laws are ethics. These are the established rules that promote order and safety on the road for everyone. Thus, morals often describe one's particular values concerning what is right and what is wrong. While ethics can refer broadly to moral principles, one often sees it applied to questions of correct behavior within a relatively narrow area of activity. Ethics must trump personal morals for the greater good of maintaining the integrity of a system. Human values. Human values are core principles that guide our decisions and actions. They reflect what we consider important and desirable in life. For instance, a civil servant must value honesty and integrity, guiding him to always speak the truth and uphold moral principles, even if it means facing personal consequences. This value is intrinsic to the individual's sense of right and wrong, irrespective of societal norms or pressures. These are individual beliefs that motivate people to act one way or another. These values can be ethical or moral values, religious values, political values, social or atheistic values, etc. Types of values: relative and absolute values, intrinsic and extrinsic values, protected values, sacred values, personal and community values. Okay. Types of values: relative and absolute values. Relative values differ from people and on a large scale between people of different cultures. Example: materialistic values are individual and society specific. An absolute value can be described as philosophically absolute and independent of individual and cultural views, as well as independent of whether it is known or apprehended or not. Example: non-violence, equality, non-discrimination, etc. Intrinsic and extrinsic values. Intrinsic value is something that has value in itself with inner meaning but that can be recognized. Example: feeling connected to friends and family, caring about others, being comfortable with oneself, etc. Extrinsic value refers to values that are not inherently valuable and valued based on their appearances. Examples include pursuing wealth, striving for material success, being concerned about one's image, etc. Protected values. It is one that an individual is unwilling to trade off, no matter what the benefits of doing so may be. Example: some people may be unwilling to kill another person, even if it means saving many other individuals. Sacred values. Some values are considered sacred and are more moral imperatives for those who believe in them. Sacred values will seldom be compromised because they are perceived as duties. Example: for some people, their nation's flag may represent a sacred value, but for others, the flag may just be a piece of cloth. Personal and community values. The values that are prescribed by the individual alone, irrespective of his or her social relationships, are termed as personal values. Example: dignity of labor, sensitivity and cleanliness, politeness, honesty, etc. The values which are regarded in the whole community are called community values. Example: caring and respecting elders. Importance of values: guides human behavior. Internal reference for good living. Internal reference for good living. Differentiate what is right and wrong. Driving force in ethical decision making. Identification of the goals. Guides human behavior. Values are the principles and fundamental convictions which act as general guide to behavior. Internal references. Reference for good living. Personal values provide an internal reference for what is good, beneficial, important, useful, beautiful, desirable, and constructive. Differentiate what is right and wrong. All values are affective, cognitive, and directional aspects. They guide us, shape our priorities in deciding what is right and wrong. driving force in ethical decision making. Values are universally recognized as a driving force in ethical decision making. Identification of the goals. Value education helps us accurately identify our wants and goals, as well as how to go about achieving them. Ethics, morality, and values. All ethics and morals are values, but all values are not ethics, such as bravery is a value but not an ethics, and the people who are not brave cannot be considered as unethical. Punctuality is a value but also ethics in some countries like Japan. Hard work is a value but not an ethic. There can be there can also be a conflict between personal values, morality, and professional ethics. For instance, consider the example of a vegetarian doctor who promotes the value of non-violence and believes it is morally wrong to consume meat. However, his professional ethics might advocate using all available resources for patient well-being, potentially including animal-derived medication. Okay, how to navigate honesty in a corrupt system. Live your values, speak your truth, embrace sacrifice, be the change, stand strong, take ownership. So, how to navigate honesty in a corrupt system? Live your values. Integrity starts with personal action. Be honest because you believe in it, not out of fear or pressure. Speak your truth. Have the courage to voice your honest opinions to superiors and subordinates. Dare to make difficult decisions based on your principles. Embrace sacrifice. Honesty can come with consequences. Be prepared for potential job changes. Remember, a clear conscience provides true comfort. Be the change. Inspire others by embodying the honesty you advocate for. Be the example you wish to see. Stand strong. Truth remains true, even with few believers. Find the courage to be that voice of integrity, even if you stand alone. Take ownership. Do not shirk responsibility. Be a leader who tackles issues directly, holding yourself and others accountable. Role of family in inculcation of values. There is nothing called a self made man. We are made up of thousands of others. George Matthew Adams. A man is usually the five closest to him. Jim Rohn. Social institution. A family is a social institution with the bond of common belief, religion, customs, culture, and language and way of life. It carries on the heritage and traditions as legacies from the earlier generation to the next generation. First, school of value learning for children. Family and parents act as a first school of value learning for children. Values such as honesty, truth are passed on to children by them. For example, parents involve their children in budgeting groceries, which fosters financial responsibility and honesty. Family provides an informal way of learning. Love, compassion, self sacrifice, and values of sharing and caring develop implicitly within a child. For instance, sharing their lunch boxes with their friends develop the spirit of charity and brotherhood in them. Role model for children. Parents and family members are role models for children and they often imitate the actions, behavior of them. Example, if family members treat women equally and respect them, children also are likely to do the same in the future. Provide the necessary emotional support, such as caring and counseling to get him out of such negative thoughts. Example, spouse offers a comforting hug after a stressful day at work. Next is role of grandparents in cultural transmission. Grandparents preserve family traditions, passing down values and customs. Their life insights complement parental guidance, offering unique perspectives. They also provide intergenerational bonding. For instance, a child often learns to communicate in her or his regional language because of communication with their grandparents in their native mother tongue. Role of educational institutions in inculcating of values, inculcation of values. Educational institutions, okay. Intelligence plus character, that is the true goal of education. Martin Luther King. Intelligence plus character, that is the true goal of education. Martin Luther King. Education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make a man a more clever devil. C.S. Lewis. If a country is to be corruption free and become a nation of beautiful minds, I strongly feel there are three key societal members who can make a difference. They are the father, the mother, and the teacher. APJ Abdul Kalam. Education is regarded as the most potential tool to inculcate values in children. School is a place where systematic learning takes place in the earlier school of life, which enables the child to learn how to regulate his behavior in society, building a foundation of values. Throughout history, education has been rooted in a value system, fostering growth in physical, intellectual, moral, and spiritual well being. For example, many schools organize community service projects such as beach cleanup drives, volunteering at orphanages, or tree plantation initiatives. This fosters empathy, social responsibility, and sense of giving back. Moral learning through curriculum and philosophy. Social curriculums, school curriculums can actively promote moral development by incorporating lessons on ethical dilemmas and a dedicated subject like moral philosophy. Examples within these lessons could include world history, French Revolution, liberty, equality, fraternity. Modern history, Gandhi's train to Pretoria, standing against injustice. Literature, it helps us understand the human nature and prevalent social values of a given era. Sportsmanship and teamwork. Participating in various sports at a young age provides opportunities to develop valuable skills like teamwork and sportsmanship among students. Holistic development through education. Education plays a crucial role in shaping well rounded individuals by fostering qualities like compassion, truthfulness, peaceful coexistence amongst diverse cultures. For example, schools can empower student groups to organize anti bullying campaigns. These initiatives promote respect for all and encourage students to intervene in bullying situations. Social control. Values like obedience, respect, and discipline should be taught in schools. By encouraging kids to be good students, productive future employees, and law abiding citizens, school promote uniformity. Recommendations for value education. A serious defect in the school system is the absence of provision for education in social, moral, and spiritual values. Kothari Commission, 1964 to 66. Every effort must be made, therefore, to teach students true moral values from the earliest stage of their educational life. Sri Prakasha Committee on Religious and Moral Instruction. Value-based education. Make value education an essential part of education, emphasizing core human values in everyday classroom teaching. Learning through playful activities. Teachers can use engaging games to instill values like fair play, honesty, cooperation, and courage. For instance, teachers can present case studies related to copying in exams, bullying in schools, etc. Encouraging student debate fosters critical thinking and ethical decision making. Technology for value education. Equip leaders, future leaders, with a balanced understanding of technology's positive and negative impacts. For example, utilizing VR experiences to cultivate empathy and understanding of diverse cultures in children. Next is challenging negative influences. Counteract prejudices like gender bias, hatred, or casteism by promoting rational thinking and positive values. Teachers as role models. Teachers set a high standard of ethical conduct, acting as facilitators of knowledge and shapers of character. Role of society in inculcation of values. The society is a place of informal learning that inculcates core ethical values and nourishes the whole personality of individuals as community members. Society can promote a lifelong love of learning that goes beyond academics, encouraging critical thinking, open discussions on ethical dilemmas, and exposure to diverse perspectives helps individuals help develop strong moral reasoning skills. When individuals participate in their communities, they develop a sense of responsibility and empathy for others. This can be through volunteering, social justice initiatives, or even local government involvement. Constructive role of society. Society can play an important role in the development of an individual's personality. By widely upholding ethical values, it can encourage individuals to be ethical. For instance, societies upholding ethical religious values like truthfulness, non-satya, non-violence, ahimsa, and compassion, karuna, fosters tolerance and peaceful coexistence. Destructive role of society. Similarly, society may play a deciding role in developing a crime as a subcultural phenomenon. If it does not disapprove of unethical behaviors or acts, it may lower the standards of ethics in the society and it may result in an increase in criminal activities. For example, the casual acceptance of small bribes for basic services reinforces a culture of corruption that erodes trust in institutions. Society helps to imbibe conformity to ethical values. For instance, a society prioritizing cleanliness and environmentalism will force its members to maintain their surrounding neat and clean. Society plays a major role in removing the evils of social indifferences like caste through collective struggle. Importance of society in shaping values. Nurturing diversity. Society encourages a variety of values, ensuring well-rounded individuals. This diversity also provides individuals with choices and the freedom to select values that resonate with them. Cultural norms and traditions. Shared customs and practices passed down through generations implicitly convey societal values. Example, holiday celebrations. Shared values for cohesion. Society fosters values that promote stability and harmony by encouraging members to respect established traditions and customs, creating a sense of shared identity. Role models and credibility. Certain individuals within society, such as teachers, leaders, celebrities, and religious figures, hold significant influence due to their credibility. Their values and teachings often have a profound impact on individuals. Reinforcement mechanisms. Society employs both formal laws and informal social pressure methods to incentivize adherence to certain values while penalizing or discouraging violations of others. Examples of value erosion: drug abuse, disrespecting elders and women, greenwashing. Factors contributing to the erosion of values: moral decline, weakened social fabric, materialistic culture, social media misuse, the bystander effect. Okay. Factors contributing to the erosion of values: moral decline, rising cynicism, disconnect between rights and responsibilities, materialism, and increased violence are weakening societal wisdom and ethical behavior. Example: increased online bullying and troll, despite anonymity and potential consequences, highlights a decline in empathy and sense of personal responsibility. Weakened social fabric, vested interests, terrorism, societal disruptions, and excessive focus on worldly pursuits are creating a void in social cohesion and stability. Materialistic culture. The relentless pursuit of material wealth combined with rampant commercialization is eroding ethical values and traditional priorities. Example, fast fashion trends that prioritize low prices and high turnover over ethical labor practices and environmental sustainability. Social media misuse. The spread of misinformation, deep fakes, and the general misuse of social media platforms are contributing to the erosion of values. Example, the spread of conspiracy theories and false information about vaccines on social media platforms, eroding trust in science and public health experts. The bystander effect. The tendency for people to be less likely to intervene in emergencies as the number of bystanders increases creates a climate of apathy and undermines social responsibility. Example, cases where bystanders film a crime happening instead of intervening to help the victim or calling for assistance. Moral erosion in civil servants. In recent times, there has been observed rising moral apathy in civil servants also. Reasons for moral erosion. Strategies to combat moral erosion. So reasons for moral erosion. Bureaucratic inefficiency, evasion of responsibility, social tolerance of corruption, materialism over values. Okay. Bureaucratic inefficiency. The ever expanding size of government departments and institutions creates confusion in the chain of command. This often leads to a slow decision making and a lack of transparency, hindering accountability. Evasion of responsibility. There's a tendency for individuals to take credit for successes but avoid blame for failures. This fosters a culture where no one takes ownership of problems, hindering progress and ethical conduct. Social tolerance of corruption. Society's growing acceptance of corrupt practices is a worrying trend. The silence of good people emboldens those who engage in unethical behavior. Materialism over values. A growing emphasis on materialism and worldly success is causing people to prioritize these over ethical principles, leading to a decline in integrity and spiritual well being. Strategies to combat moral erosion. Whistleblower protections. Implementing and enforcing laws that protect individuals, reporting wrongdoing by officials, encouraging transparency and accountability. Ethical decision making training. Equipping the public relations professionals and officials with knowledge of best practices and research in managing ethical dilemmas. Transparency initiatives. Transparency initiatives. Enacting clear laws requiring government officials to provide justifications behind their decisions, fostering public trust and scrutiny. Ethics review processes. Regularly conducting internal and external audits to identify and address potential vulnerabilities that could threaten integrity in key processes. Accountability measures. Establishing clear disciplinary procedures and enforcing penalties for violations of ethical codes, ensuring consequences for misconduct. Okay. Chasing materialistic achievements only has led to the decline of values and increased greed, corruption, as well as exploitation and degradation of the environment. There is a need to inculcate human dignity and social harmony to make economic growth more sustainable and societies more peaceful. Other philosophical schools. There are some philosophies and doctrines which advocate principles which provide alternating views about ethical standards and morality. Determinism. This theory argues that our choices and actions are predetermined by external forces beyond our control. As a result, people cannot be held morally responsible for their behavior. Moral relativism versus moral objectivism. Moral relativists believe there are no universal moral truths, and what is right or wrong depends on the cultural or social context. Moral objectivists believe there are objective moral truths, and what is right or wrong depends on the sorry moral objectivists believe there are objectives moral truths that apply to everyone, regardless of time or place. Some actions are always right and others are always wrong. Situation ethics. This approach, associated with existentialism, emphasizes the unique circumstances of each situation rather than relying on universal rules. Morality is determined by the specific context and its potential consequences. Moral subjectivism. Subjectivism, this theory proposes that moral truths are subjective and based on individual beliefs. What is right for one person may not be right for another. Psychological egoism. This theory suggests humans are naturally inclined to act in their own self-interest and the true altruism is impossible. Ethical egoism, a form of hedonism. This theory argues that maximizing personal happiness and minimizing suffering is the ultimate moral good. Conclusion. Today, the importance of ethics is felt in every sphere of human living. The situation in the present world is characterized by an increasing rate in crime, violence, conflict, etc. There seems to be hardly a few areas in life that remain untouched by growing demoralization. Thus, the relevance and need of ethics is felt more than ever in our society today. Ethical issues in news. People's right versus animals' rights. The Supreme Court of India stated that a balance between human safety and animal rights must be maintained in light of the increasing number of stray dog incidents. The court also stated that those who feed stray dogs could be held financially accountable for immunizing them and covering costs if the animal attacks someone. Why is it important to preserve a balance between human and animal rights? To address core problem. The rights of wild animals in society, which is controlled by humans in general and within the parameters of the Indian Constitution in particular, are raised even more by this issue. India has a culture that values acceptance of all people and respect all living things. Cows are revered as sacred animals by Hindus. Animal punishment is wrong. Punishing animals is immoral since they lack the mental capacity to discriminate between right and wrong, and that doing so would be ineffective. The current legal system punishes pet owners for any damage brought on by the careless treatment of their animals. Way ahead, there is a need to maintain adequate balance between the human rights and animal rights, with special focus on preventing cruelty towards animals, for which various measures can be taken. Advocate for stricter laws protecting animals in research, farming, entertainment, and as companions. There is need for stringent implementation of laws like Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960. Integrate animal welfare education into school curriculums at all levels. This fosters empathy and understanding of animals' needs from a young age. Thus, the urgent requirement is to achieve a balance between protecting human safety and well-being without sacrificing the interests of animals. Moonlighting culture. The term moonlighting describes the practice of working additional jobs beyond regular business hours. This second work is taken without the knowledge of the employer and is typically a weekend or evening job. Motivations behind moonlighting. Concerns regarding moonlighting. Motivations behind moonlighting. Culture of home-based work. To have more money to spend. To obtain more work experience. To avoid boredom. Culture of home-based work. Due to work from culture, employees could know could no longer evaluate the efficiency of their personnel using clock in or clock out timesheets that encouraged more people to moonlight, to have more money to spend. If their primary job pays poorly and they need additional income to satisfy their needs, to obtain more work experience, to develop new abilities or pursue careers that more closely align with their interests, to avoid boredom, to keep them occupied in their primary employment. Employees may choose to moonlight in order to make use of the available free time. Concerns regarding moonlighting: legal but may be unethical, inefficiency, utilization of corporate resources, health compromise. Legal but may be unethical. There is no general legislation that forbids someone from doing more than one job. An individual with similar types of occupations, however, can cause confidentiality problems. Inefficiency: employees who are physically exhausted from working long hours may be distracted, ineffective, and negligent in their work duties as a result of their second job. Utilization of corporate resources: employees that work a second job may utilize corporate resources, which raises operating costs. Health compromise: poor diet, insufficient sleep, and lack of exercise can have an effect on employee health. Way ahead: employers may advise against working a second job out of worry for potential conflicts of interest, effects on primary job performance, abuse of corporate resources, absenteeism, inattentiveness, or exhaustion. Employers should conduct regular salary reviews to ensure employees feel adequately compensated for their skills and experiences. Offer competitive benefit packages that address financial concerns, reducing the need for additional income in sources. Employers should have the option to moonlight unless doing so compromises the effectiveness and integrity of their core job duties. Ethics of influencer or celebrity endorsements. Endorsements are a type of advertising that makes use of a well-known figures or celebrities that enjoy a high level of public awareness, respect, or recognition. Advertisers and clients believe that a celebrity's endorsement or stamp of approval will positively affect consumer behavior. For instance, Sachin Tendulkar's endorsement of sport gadgets may have an impact on young boys or kids who look up to him as a role model. Ethical issues in influencer endorsements. Ethical issues in influencer endorsements. Celebrity endorsements are a huge part of Indian advertising. While they bring glamour and recognition, there are ethical concerns to consider. Misleading claims and lack of knowledge. Fans trust influencers, but enforcements can be misleading if the product does not match the celebrity or they lack knowledge about it. Example: a celebrity endorsing a fairness cream despite having naturally fair skin. They might not understand the product's ingredients or potential side effects. Irresponsible promotion of unhealthy products. Promoting unhealthy products to young fans who trust celebrities can negatively impact their health. Example: cricketers endorsing sugary drinks or unhealthy snacks, targeting young fans who idolize them. This can lead to poor dietary choices. This is especially true with the high prevalence of diabetes in India. Exploiting fan adulation and trust. Blind trust in celebrity endorsements, especially by young fans, can lead to impulsive decisions without proper evaluation. Example: actors endorsing education apps they might not have personally used. Fans, especially young people, trust their judgment and might enroll without proper research. Way forward: stricter regulations, increased celebrity awareness, media scrutiny, consumer awareness, stricter regulations. Advertising bodies can enforce stricter guidelines for celebrity endorsements, requiring disclaimers and proof of product knowledge. Increased celebrity awareness. Celebrities should be more selective about what they endorse and understand the product's impact. Media scrutiny. Media outlets can hold both celebrities and brands accountable for misleading advertising. Consumer awareness. Educating consumers to be critical of celebrity endorsements and do their own research before buying. By addressing these concerns, influencer endorsements can be a more ethical and responsible marketing tool. India's laws against deceptive advertising. The 2019 Consumer Protection Act, which was passed to safeguard consumers against unfair business practices and misleading advertising, is in line with the new regulations. Guidelines for the prevention of misleading advertisements and endorsements for misleading advertisements 2022 were released by the Department of Consumer Affairs. Ethics of migration. Throughout history, human migration has been a defining force shaping societies and cultures. However, the movement of people across borders raises complex ethical questions. On one hand, the freedom of movement is a fundamental human right. People have compelling reasons to migrate, seeking safety, opportunity, or family reunification. On the other hand, countries have legitimate concerns about managing their borders and ensuring the well being of their citizens. Ethical issues in migration, rights and obligations, integration and social cohesion, brain drain and unequal development, exploitation and human trafficking, environmental impact. Ethical issues in migration, rights and obligations. Migrants often face challenges assessing basic rights and fulfilling social obligations in host countries. Deontological, balancing rights of migrants with those of citizens. Integration of social cohesion. Integration Integration and social cohesion. Integration of migrants can be difficult, leading to social tensions and challenges to social cohesion. Brain drain and unequal development. Migration of skilled workers from developing countries can hinder their growth. Teleological, achieving long-term development goals for sending and receiving countries. Exploitation and human trafficking. Vulnerable migrants are at risk of exploitation and trafficking. Deontological, protecting basic human rights and dignity. Environmental impact. Environmental impact. Large-scale migration can strain resources and contribute to environmental degradation in both sending and receiving countries. Utilitarian, balancing economic benefits of migration with environmental impact. Way forward, international cooperation. Global agreements are needed to ensure fair treatment of migrants, address root causes of migration, and promote responsible migration policies. Integration strategies. Host countries need to develop comprehensive integration strategies that support the social and economic inclusion of migrants. Human rights framework. A human rights framework should guide all policies and practices related to migration. Sustainable development. Addressing global issues like poverty and conflict can reduce the need for migration. By addressing these ethical issues and adopting a comprehensive approach, countries can create a more just and humane system for cross-border human migration. Doping in sports. The use of illegal substances, pills, or therapies by athletes with the goal of enhancing sports performance is referred to as doping. Ethical issues involved in doping in sports. unfair advantage and level playing field. Doping creates an unfair advantage for athletes who use them, undermining the spirit of fair competition and equal opportunity. Example: Lance Armstrong's cycling victories were later stripped due to doping, showing how it can distort results and diminish the achievements of clean athletes. Health risks and long-term effects. Many PEDs, performance enhanced drugs, have serious health consequences, both short-term, example liver damage, and long-term, example cancer. Athletes are pressurized to use them despite potential health risks. Pressure to win and the culture of doping. Intense pressure to win at all costs can lead athletes and support staff to resort to doping, creating a culture that normalizes its use. Example: the uncovering of systematic doping programs in countries like Russia demonstrates how a win at all cost mentality can corrupt sports institutions. Ethical measures to address doping: stronger anti-doping programs, educational programs, independent oversight, focus on health and wellness. Stronger anti-doping programs, increased funding and stricter testing regimes with more sophisticated methods can deter doping and catch offenders. Educational programs, educating athletes, coaches, and support staff about the dangers of doping and promoting clean sportsmanship. Independent oversight, establishing independent anti-doping agencies free from national or political influence to ensure unbiased investigations and sanctions. Focus on health and wellness, promoting a culture that prioritizes athlete health over winning at any cost, focusing on long term well being. By implementing these ethical measures, we can create a fairer and healthier sporting environment for all athletes. Measures taken to deal with sports doping. WADA's key initiatives include raising awareness of the health concerns associating with doping, researching the practices, developing anti-doping tools, and creating testing procedures for doping detection. Further, the National Anti-Doping Bill was approved by the Indian Parliament. Social reform, a matter of law or ethics. A huge tragedy in Bihar claimed the lives of over 70 individuals. Bihar has banned alcohol for the past 6 years. These catastrophes do not just occur in Bihar, they occasionally occur throughout much of India. It is debatable whether changing behavior is a legal issue or merely an ethical one. Another crucial issue is whether a state should restrict a person's freedom in the name of welfare. Need for stronger liquor laws in India. Constitutional obligation. Article 47 of the Indian Constitution calls for the improving public health and living standards. Regulating alcohol consumption could contribute to achieving this goal. Protecting vulnerable groups. The social contract theory suggests the government has a moral duty to safeguard citizens' well-being. In India, where men often dominate households, excessive alcohol use can negatively impact families, particularly women and children. Restricting alcohol access could promote justice for these vulnerable groups. Utilitarian perspective. Utilitarianism emphasizes the greatest good for the greatest number. Alcohol abuse can negatively affect the entire families, not just the drinker. Limiting alcohol consumption could potentially benefit society as a whole. Challenges in implementing liquor laws, stakeholder involvement, justification and legality. Stakeholder involvement. Effective laws often emerge from the comprehensive discussions with all relevant parties. For example, the law banning sati practice succeeded due to community support. Conversely, laws passed hastily without public discourse, like some anti-alcohol laws, might fail to achieve their goals. Justification and legality. Strong justifications, such as the inherent inhumanity of slavery, can lead to successful legislation, like anti slavery laws. Conversely, laws lacking clear justification or legal basis, like some anti corruption measures, might be less effective. Thus, laws such as liquor ban can be successfully implemented if these factors are taken into consideration, and ethical issues can also be resolved in such initiatives. Making Bhagavad Gita teachings mandatory in schools. The Gujarat government's decision to incorporate the Bhagavad Gita into curriculum for grade 6 to 12 from the 2022 to 23 academic year has sparked discussion. Proponents highlight the Bhagavad Gita's timeless values of ethical conduct, which extend beyond academic settings. These principles are seen as relevant in various fields, including business ethics and administrative ethics, offering guidance for individuals and systems alike. Ethical issues involved: freedom of religion, deontological ethics, interpretation and bias, virtue ethics, academic freedom, deontological ethics, alternative religious teachings, utilitarianism, freedom of religion, deontological ethics. India is a secular state with a diverse religious population. Mandating religious scripture could violate the right to freedom of religion. Interpretation and bias, virtue ethics. The Bhagavad Gita is open to interpretation. Whose interpretation would be taught? Would it favor a specific Hindu denomination? Academic freedom, deontological ethics. Does mandating the Gita infringe on the right of educators to design their own curriculum and choose materials that align with their teaching goals? Alternative religious teachings, utilitarianism. If the Gita is mandatory, should teachings from other major religions also be included to promote religious tolerance and understanding? Way forward: offer Bhagavad Gita as an elective course. Allow interested students to study it alongside other philosophical or religious texts for a broader perspective. Focus on universal ethical values. Extract and teach universal ethical principles present in the Gita that resonate across religions. Develop a secular ethics curriculum. Implement a broader ethics curriculum that incorporates principles from various sources, including the Gita, but not limited to. Teacher training and sensitivity. Provide teachers with appropriate training to handle diverse religious backgrounds and interpretations of the Gita. Ultimately, a well rounded approach that prioritizes ethical values, inclusivity, and intellectual freedom can be more beneficial than solely mandating religious teachings in schools. Surrogate advertising. Recently, a Bollywood actor faced criticism on social media for endorsing a brand associated with tobacco products. In response, the actor withdrew from the endorsement deal. This incident has reignited discussions about the lack of ethical principles in advertising and the need for stricter regulations on tobacco advertising and surrogate marketing. Surrogate advertising is the marketing strategy used to promote products that are restricted or banned from the direct advertising. This is typically done by advertising a different legal product made by the same company with the intention that consumers will associate the advertised product with the restricted one. For example, a brand known for cigarettes might sponsor a racing event and have their logo displayed prominently. A liquor company might place a branded water bottle in a popular movie. Ethical issues involved: deception and consumer manipulation, targeting vulnerable groups, undermining public health efforts, global versus local regulations. Deception and consumer manipulation. Surrogate ads mislead consumers by disguising the actual product. Deontology argues it violates honesty and causes long-term harm to consumer well-being and public health. Targeting vulnerable groups. These ads often target youth or those susceptible to addiction, maximizing profit but neglecting their potential harm. Undermining public health efforts. Surrogate advertising for tobacco or alcohol can undermine public health campaigns aimed at reducing consumption. From a utilitarian perspective, the societal cost of increased health problems outweighs any economic gains. Global versus local regulations. The effectiveness of regulations can be hampered by differences in laws across countries. Way forward: strengthen regulations. Implement stricter regulations on surrogate advertising, clearly defining permissible content and placement. Industry self-regulation. Encourage advertising agencies and media companies to adopt ethical codes that reject surrogate advertisements. Global collaboration. Develop international agreements and regulation to address the cross-border impact of surrogate advertising. Promote ethical alternatives. Encourage marketing strategies that focus on product features and benefits without resorting to deceptive tactics. Public health initiatives. Prioritize public health campaigns that counter the influence of surrogate advertising by promoting healthy lifestyles and responsible choices. By addressing these issues and implementing these solutions, we can work towards more ethical and responsible advertising. Child artists. Recently, the National Commission on Protection of Child Rights, NCPCR, has issued guidelines for child and adolescent participation in the entertainment industry or any commercial entertainment activity. Nowadays, child artists face a complex challenge, balancing their well-being and development with the opportunities performing arts offer. This raises many ethical concerns regarding their well-being. Ethical issues involved: exploitation and abuse, education and development, loss of childhood, objectification and sexualization, privacy and media intrusion. Ethical issues involved: exploitation and abuse. Child artists can be subjected to long working hours, physically demanding routines, and emotional manipulation. This raises concerns about exploitation and potential abuse. Education and development. The pursuit of a career in the arts can come at the expense of a formal education and overall development for the child. Loss of childhood. Child artists often miss out on normal childhood experiences like playtime and social interaction with peers. Objectification and sexualization. Child artists can be portrayed in ways that are inappropriate for their age, leading to objectification and potential sexualization. Privacy and media intrusion. Child artists' privacy can be compromised by constant media attention and the pressure to maintain a public image. Way forward: regulation and oversight. Government agencies and industry bodies can establish clear regulations regarding working hours, education requirements, minimum age limits, and financial transparency. Independent representation. Child artists should have independent representation to negotiate contracts and ensure their rights are protected. Parental education. Educating parents about the potential risks and benefits of a career in the arts can help them make informed decisions for their children. Ethical media practices. Media outlets should develop ethical guidelines for portraying child artists, focusing on respecting their privacy and well-being. By implementing these solutions and promoting ethical practices, we can create a safer and more nurturing environment for child artists to pursue their interests, their talents. Okay, key terms and their meanings. Moral muteness. Moral muteness occurs when people witness unethical behavior and choose not to say anything. It can also occur when people communicate in ways that obscure their moral beliefs and commitments. Moral myopia. Moral myopia refers to the inability to see ethical issues clearly. The term, coined by Minette Drumwright and Patrick Murphy, describes what happens when we do not recognize the moral implication of a problem, or we have a distorted moral vision. An extreme version of moral myopia is called moral blindness. Cognitive bias. People generally believe that they are mostly rational in their thinking, decisions, and actions. But even the smartest and the best educated people often commit cognitive errors as they make financial, medical, personal, and ethical decisions. These errors in thinking, also called cognitive bias, affects all people in virtually every situation. Bounded ethicality. Bounded ethicality is the idea that our ability to make ethical choices is often limited for restricted because of internal and external pressures. For example, outside pressures such as the tendency to conform to actions of those around us can make it hard to do right thing. So can internal biases, such as the self-serving bias, which often causes us to subconsciously favor ourselves at the expense of others. Conformity bias. The conformity bias is the tendency people have to behave like those around them rather than using their own personal judgment. For example, when we see others succeed by cheating, it makes us more likely to cheat as well. Ethical fading. Ethical fading occurs when the ethical aspects of a decision disappears from view. This happens when people focuses heavily on some other aspects of a decision, such as profitability or winning. Moral cognition. It is a study of the brain's role in moral judgment and decision making. As a social science, it involves understanding the rationalizations and biases that affect moral decision making. Moral cognition also involves the scientific study of the brain that is evolving along with technology. Role morality. It is a notion that people sometimes fail to live up to their own ethical standards because they see themselves as playing a certain role that excuses them from those standards. For example, say a person views herself as a loyal employee of a company. In that role, she might act unethically to benefit her employer in ways that she would never do to help herself. Moral absolutism. Moral absolutism asserts that there are certain universal moral principles by which all people's actions may be judged. It is a form of deontology. Okay, next we will discuss the previous year questions from this chapter. 2023 question. Differentiate moral intuition and moral reasoning with suitable examples. Moral intuition and moral reasoning with suitable examples. Do not hate anybody because that hatred that comes out from you must in the long run come back to you. If you love, that love will come back to you, completing the circle. Swami Vivekananda. The simplest acts of kindness are by far more powerful than 1,000 heads bowing in prayer. Mahatma Gandhi. Corruption is the manifestation of the failure of core values in the society. In your opinion, what measures can be adopted to uplift the core values in the society? Online methodology is being used for day-to-day meetings, institutional approvals in the 2022 administration, and for teaching and learning in education sector. To the extent telemedicine in the health sector is getting popular with the approvals of the competent authority. No doubt, it has advantages and disadvantages for both the beneficiaries and the system at large. Describe and discuss the ethical issues involved in the use of online method, particularly to the vulnerable section of the society. It is believed that adherence to ethics in human actions would ensure in smooth functioning of an organization or system. If so, what does ethics seeks to promote in human life? How do ethical values assist in the resolution of conflicts faced by him in his day-to-day functioning? Discuss the role of ethics and values in enhancing the following three major components of comprehensive national power, viz. Human capital, soft power, culture and policies, and social harmony. Education is not an injunction. It is an effective and pervasive tool for all-round development of an individual and social transformation. Examine the new education policy 2020, NEP 2020, in the light of the above statement. Distinguish between laws and rules. Discuss the role of ethics in formulating them. What are the basic principles of public life? Illustrate any three of these with suitable examples. What is meant by the term constitutional morality? How does one uphold constitutional morality? State the three basic values, universal in nature, in the context of civil service and bring out their importance. What is meant by public interest? What are principles and procedures to be followed by the civil servants in public interest? With regard to morality of actions, one view is that means are of paramount importance, and the other view is that ends justify the means. Which view do you think is more appropriate? Justify your answer. The crisis of ethical values in modern times is traced to a narrow perception of good life. Discuss. Explain how ethics contribute to social and human well-being. Law and ethics are considered to be the two tools for controlling human conduct so as to make it conductive to civilized social existence. A. Discuss how they achieve this objective. B. Give examples, show how the two differ in their approaches. Okay, we have completed the first chapter. Next, we will discuss chapter 2, attitude, in the next video. Thank you for listening me. Thank you very much. We'll see you in next video. Thank you very much.